Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is at the table, sitting in for Joe Kernan today.
I feel good.
Is that what's really going on here?
Yeah, Joe should be worried. I'm here.
Okay, before we hit the reconciliation situation, I'm curious for your reaction to the conversation we were having earlier on the air about the plane and the Air Force One situation.
Now, I don't want you to assume I was watching you because it was early. I was probably taking a shower.
Okay, so the question is, Air Force One lands in Qatar, and there's now a question about them gifting the president and the United States, depending on whether it's gifted to the U.S. or to him, this plane. We had Ted Cruz on yesterday. He said this is a terrible idea. He thinks it's a national security threat. We had Stanley McChrystal on earlier. He said that he thought he doesn't like the optics of it. You have some folks putting out memes calling it, Hamas Force One, and other people flying apparently planes over Mar-a-Lago calling it, Qatar Alago or whatever. What do you think? Well,
I think the biggest problem here is we've got a very old Air Force One. In Trump's first administration.
I'd say the practical problem is it would be great to have a plane.
Boeing needs to speed it. Boeing needs to speed this up. And I almost think if Boeing can't deliver the plane in time, it's Boeing's responsibility to provide him another plane until that one's done.
I agree with that.
So the government shouldn't be involved. It's Boeing's responsibility, and they're getting out of this responsibility. Now, I don't know from a technical point of view. I mean, when you sit back and you think about the pagers in Israel,
right?
Anybody giving or buying any plane, you're going to have to strip it for Air Force One and the things you have to put in it. Is there enough time? The real problem here is Boeing.
Right.
I mean, the president has a legitimate argument. This is an Air Force One that was put during Reagan's time period.
Right.
And the technology and everything else today, they need to solve that problem. They're so far overrun. And if they can't finish the job, they should provide him some loaner plane that has the capability.
That's a really excellent point.
That would solve the whole problem.
But then again, like the loaner plane, the part of the problem is you have to make this secure. And
they should have done it when they were first doing it.
They should have.
They should have been working on that, and they provide something else in the meantime. It's their responsibility. It's just like if somebody was overrunning in a building. You've got to provide something else.
But how do you feel about him keeping the plane?
I think the attention now is totally wrong.
What about keeping the plane?
I don't know how he keeps the plane.
Well, the idea is that it's going to be donated to the library, and then
but
effectively
you just donated it to the government. Now is the government donating it to the library? I'm not a legal counsel, so I don't know how I can preview that.
The sort of structural model is supposed to be that ostensibly they looked at the way Reagan got the plane and somehow was able to. That plane was decommissioned, put inside his library, but on the ground.
Then that's totally fine. No, I'd be totally fine.
But my preference is because it's a relatively new plane. So the reason that plane was put out of commission was it was an older plane. If we're going to get a new plane, and we're also, as taxpayers, going to spend probably $50, $100 million to even retrofit this plane, why waste the money? We should have it flying in the air.
I love all these presidential libraries, and I think as we think in the future, when they provide something that they used, when you walk through the Reagan Library and you use that old plane walkthrough and you think about the debates they had in that place, I think that's great for the library. So if there's something that he utilizes and move it on to a library, it's fabulous.
A $400 million plane, though?
Okay, I think we're spending too much time actually on this, and this raises to the actual question that you have. You're going to miss out on all the great things he's doing if you're sitting around debating the plan.
Why don't we talk about the tax plan? Because that's of interest front and center right now.
Yeah, they're marking it up right now.
That they put out, but will this, A, make it through the House?
Yes.
What will happen in the Senate? Will the changes that are put in the Senate make it through the House the second time?
Okay, first and foremost, this bill will get done. Will it look exactly as it is right now?
That's my assumption, too, that it gets done, but who knows?
But it's not an assumption, okay? From a person that's been in the room all the time and working these bills, it will get done because if they do not do it, they will raise the tax on everybody else. So everybody can hem and haw. But because the margins are so small, everybody's going to want their attention. So structure dictates behavior. They should have had these problems solved before you walk through. I'll give you an example. Dealing with the border is one of the most difficult ones. So when I did H.R. 2, there was a problem that I could have got a bill out of committee, but I wouldn't have got it off the floor, and it would be ugly and everybody worked. So I slowed the committee down, brought everybody in the room for 2 weeks, and worked out all the problems. So once it's out of committee, you take it to the floor and vote on it. Waiting to deal with SALT now is a mistake. And the majority leader's job is to manage these committees. So we missed. Then the speaker is now just talking to him. That's not fair to the chairman of Jason Smith, right? So because 3 or 4 people can stop your whole bill. when you put everybody in the room on both sides, they know they've got to get a bill at the end of the day, and you work those problems out there instead of somebody tweeting something, somebody saying something else to get attention.
Yeah, like yesterday, there was a tweet from one of the Republicans saying, I'm a hell no on the salt tax stuff that came out of it. So what happens? Because the details really matter.
They will get salt, but salt's not going to be wiped away. Now, the problem being is if you wait and you just do a deal with the salt members, there are a lot of other states that don't have any, that are subsidizing salt to do it, right? And once you get to a certain point, when you're at 30,000, when you're at 40,000, you're taking care of 90% of the people. And you were at 10,000 before. That's a pretty good get for your constituents.
Well, with the income limits, honestly, there aren't a lot of people who are going to get 30 or 40,000. You don't have $40,000 in state and local taxes from the house that you're living in if you make $200,000.
Yeah. So, look, at the end of the day, but if they go to also to married, so you have
400,000.
Yeah. Then you're in a different place. Well, you double that.
What do you think?
I mean, you're talking about a $1.5 to $1.75 million house to get the paybacks for that. That's even if you're at 400,000. That's
you're gonna take care of. I bet you about 98%.
Yeah, I'm not arguing taking care of it. My point is by the way they've structured it, you're not going to have a lot of people who are taking 40,000 up to the limit of the 30,000.
No, so I don't know what you're overly arguing. I almost think some of these SALT members don't know their numbers.
Right, it's an optical.
They are fighting in their district to show they're fighting.
Exactly,
that's why you should have had the debate inside the room.
Right.
Do you think there's a chance that taxes go up on the wealthiest?
No.
You think that's off the table?
Yeah, Republicans do not raise taxes philosophically. And there is no Democrat that's going to vote for this bill. So you're going to get all the Republicans to vote to raise taxes?
What kind of deficit are we going to be left with when this is over?
You're going to have a big deficit.
And it's going to get worse, not better.
The deficit is the biggest problem we got going.
Right, but this bill is not going to address that ultimately.
No, the debt ceiling is going to provide a greater cut, what we did 2 years ago, than this will ever do. They're talking about a lower number. We did more than $2 trillion. They're arguing about work requirements. We did work requirements in welfare. We did NEPA reform. I mean, and you had all the Democrats voting for it, and you had 2/3 of the Republicans. So I don't know. They're arguing over stuff they've already voted for. They're not going further.